Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Life is Limitless podcast. My name is Cody Demery, and I am your host of this brand new podcast. And today we have Dani Carrier for number 7 episode, I believe. So me and Dani were chatting just only yesterday, and we decided to try and make this conversation happen because I personally believe I think a lot of people will benefit from hearing a few things of what Dani has to say about a few of the topics. Now, before we get going, I do just want to give people a fair warning because I want to take care of our audience, whoever's going to be listening, watching, wherever you're going to be able to basically take part of this conversation. Some of it's going to be explicit content. Of course, we're going to talk about sex trafficking. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about some PTSD and a few things in between. Okay, so we just want to give everyone a fair warning that today's topics might be a little heavy for some to hear. I just want to do my best to let everyone know before we kind of get rolling into things. And Miss Dani, I want to greatly appreciate you for being up, for having a conversation, for reaching out. And I think our chat's going to be very powerful. What do you say, Dani?
Thank you so much for having me. I really like how you prefaced the beginning when you talked about like the trauma and stuff because it's so important. And I was a mental health therapist in the past, so detachment is really important for me. So for those of you that are listening, it's important to detach from my story, although it may be triggering for some. Detach and take care of yourself. You know what helps you, your self-care, and just take care of yourself while you're listening. And for those of you that are my friends and family, most of you have heard this story, some of my stories, but I just want you to take care as well. And you can talk to me afterwards if you'd like. I'm an open book, so.
That's a great addition, Dani, for sure. So, Dani, just to get us off on a good start, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So I am, what am I now? 37? Yeah. I turned 38 in April. Oh, close to 40. 2 years. The big 40. I'm excited about that. I was born and raised in PA here. I grew up here my whole life. Not my whole life, because I've moved around. I've lived in Moose Jaw, Lloyd, Edmonton, and Regina. I think that's it. And a bit of time in Waskesiu every summer. And currently my role, in my work role is that I am the program manager for a program called, be ready for it, it's a long name, Family Information Liaison Unit. So we get our funding from the federal government. Thank you, feds. And I work for the province and we distribute our money to Métis Nation, FSIN, and I love working with those agencies. Our team feels like family, and we work with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, 2S+, plus we also work with a lot of human trafficking victims as well. So some of my story I'm going to be sharing is some of the things that I've done in that role and just providing a plug, I guess, for the program because it's so meaningful and impactful for the province of Saskatchewan, but also it's located in every province and territory. And
well, that's beautiful.
Go ahead.
I just want to share, we definitely want to hear more about that. Like I said myself yesterday, I'm a little bit, I'm not trying to be ignorant, but I don't know as much as I definitely would like to while we have this conversation. And I bet there's a lot of other folks that would really love to hear what you have to say about that program and, what you stand for and what you can help with, basically, more or less. That isn't necessarily stuff that you can't share, so things for the public to be able to listen to for sure.
Absolutely. And like after Cody, I can provide you with the link to our program because like I said, it's in every province and territory. Right now we have funding till March 2030, which I'm very excited about. I've been in this role for 5 years now as the manager. Do you want me to talk about some of my past prior career history?
You know what? Sure. If you're comfortable with that too, and then we can lead into the management role. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I am one of those people that have changed my career 27 times. Not my career, my jobs. So I started working when I was 14 and I was in the service industry, bartending, beer cart girl at Elkridge, which was to this date my favorite job. I was a lifeguard. I did all these things. And then I finally graduated from high school. And while I was working at Elkridge, I figured, you know what? I am serving alcohol to people all the time. And it seems like alcohol is a part of their day to day. And you know what I mean? So I went into addictions counseling. So I got my diploma in addictions counseling, then decided I don't want to stop there. I got my degree in human justice from Lethbridge. Didn't want to stop there. Had a baby. I met my husband in Regina, actually, it was by chance. Had a baby, finished my degree, and then during that process, I got hired. Oh, during that process, I was a mental health and addictions therapist at a bunch of treatment centers and loved that. But we were living in Moose Jaw, and our house had ice damming, which is basically your walls are falling apart, and the kitchen. And so
Yeah.
then the jail and PA called me, and they're like, Danny, get over here. I'm like, I never wanted to be a jail guard. I'm a counselor. I'm good with speaking with people. I can talk somebody off a ledge like you wouldn't believe. But I came and I became a CO, and I loved it. So I was a corrections officer for 7 years. I thought it was longer than that, but it wasn't. It was 7. And during that time, I was the leader of the critical incident stress management team. I was an acting manager as well, and a trainer. And then after that, I got hired as a trainer for the province. So train correctional officers in communication skills, use of force, all that kind of stuff, which I loved again, because I am by nature a speaker, facilitator, communicator. That's who I am. Then after that, I got this role. So that's where I am today.
Can you fill us in a little bit about what that role provides for folks? Like, of course, I know there's parts that you can't share, but maybe some parts that are able to be shared with people.
Absolutely. So the premise of this program is that we support MMIWG 2S+, right? So FSIN provides direct services to families of treaty status, Métis Nation, likewise, right? We work with, So we support families with financial support, which is huge when somebody has a missing or murdered loved one. Say if somebody's going to trial, we cover their hotels, their accommodations, their meals, their mileage. We are also front and center supporting them during that trial, during that court process. Part of that too is us going over autopsy reports with the families, toxicology reports, which can be very traumatic. But for me, I've only ever dealt with trauma in my life since I was, oh God, I don't even know what age. Young. But my career has been filled with trauma. That's what I'm good at. That's what I've dealt with. So for me, sitting down with a family with an autopsy report can lots of the time provide closure to a family. We do that. Everyone has probably seen memorial walks. They're everywhere all the time. We support that. We plan it usually with the families, and we fund it. We do presentations. Basically anything that has to do with missing and murdered, MMIWG, and human trafficking, we do. So we might get a call that we need from one of our clients that they have a family member that's being trafficked across Saskatchewan. There's like a circuit of human trafficking. I have a lot of training in it. So say we have a client was in Regina, is now moved to Calgary being trafficked, and back to Regina, and then to Winnipeg. There's like a circuit they do. We will track them down, actually, with the police, because we're very close with the police. We work hand in hand with victim services, city police, RCMP, major crimes, you name it. So that's us in the gist of things, I guess.
That's very important work. Thank you very much for sharing, and of course, partaking in that work. I definitely know there's a lot of people that would benefit and need that, assistance, especially going through some tough times in their lives. And so it's nice that people can actually have some support systems in place if they are going through a situation like that, which I can't imagine, quite frankly, just being honest with folks who's ever going to be listening.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, I know we chatted a little bit beforehand. Can I ask what made you want to get into this role?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I am married. I think I've been married. My husband always makes fun of me because it was just our anniversary on March 1st. He always remembers. I don't. I just have so much going on up here. I have two kids. My son Roman is going to be 14, and my daughter Catalea is going to be 10. And when I was a CO, corrections officer, I still call it CO, but it's corrections officer. When I was in corrections, the whole time I was in corrections, I only worked high security. So I worked on what was known as the custodial services team, which responds to all the codes in the facility and runs the panels, the cameras, everything like that. So code black, orange, I won't explain it all, but you get the gist. We deal with the holding cell offenders. So one day we were dealing with this holding cell offender, and he committed like a really heinous crime against an Indigenous woman. She passed away, and I walked past him, and he was a Caucasian guy, and I asked him why did he like. I asked him why'd you do it, and he said because he could, and I was like, A couple of years later, this job came up, and I was like, you know what, I am like a force to be reckoned with when it comes to women's safety and just advocating for women. I was like, I need to take this job. It was like a calling. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It was like, yeah, this is presenting itself here for you. Take it.
Yeah.
And then I did, and I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the families. I am in love with the families. I was just on the phone with family this morning and explained to them that they won't be seeing me after March 18th because I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's a part of this that we're going to be speaking about as well. But yeah, that's why I went into this job. And
Well, thank
more.
you.
There's more. We'll
Yeah,
get into it. Yeah.
for sure. Well, thank you for sharing that. And as I mentioned on the phone last night, I'm sorry about hearing that news, but definitely believe you have a very optimistic side of things, and which is very powerful. And healing and medicine is having a very powerful mindset towards the journey that you and your family will be going through for a while. Now, you did mention about some prior experience when it came to, what you do as a role. Would you
Mm-hmm.
like to be, sharing with folks some of that
Yeah.
experience as far as you want,
Yeah.
and as not as far as you want?
Absolutely. So, I was trying to figure out how I was going to start this story and what age I was going to start it at.
Yeah.
I'm going to start at 15. So, I grew up in PA, like I said, went to Carleton. And while I'm explaining this, I'm not going to name any names for privacy reasons. And just because I have forgiven people along my journey, I've went through, I can't tell you how many counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists in my life. And sometimes I fought back with them because I also have those skills. It's quite funny
Yeah.
sometimes. But when I was 15, I had dated a guy. And I think I dated him for about a year. He ended up being very abusive. There was a lot of substance use in his family, and I was in danger, essentially. I got thrown from the car. I got hit. Where he lived in town was far away from my house. I grew up privileged, to be honest. I grew up with a loving, very loving family. My mom and dad are amazing. They're still together. My sisters are amazing. They're all amazing. But he didn't have that. And when I was with him, there was a point where I had walked away from his mom's house because I was scared. And the area in PA that I was in was dangerous. And I was walking down a back alley and I got attacked by like 5 guys. I didn't know who they are. Obviously, you're not going to know who they are when it's dark, right? I managed to get away, and still people question, like, you're lying. How'd you get away? And I'm like, I'm really fast. I ran track. Come on. And I was just able to fight away and just free, like, so for me, I also thrive in chaos, and I'll explain some of that as well. I just fought my way out of it and ran. I ran back to my abuser, which is what, if you know the cycle of domestic violence, you will understand what I'm saying. You go back to your abuser time and time again. Typically, it takes 8 times before you actually exit and you actually get support. I went back to my abuser. The cops were called. I made a statement, all of that. And the cop said to me, "Are you okay? Do you need to go home?" And I was fearful that if I said I needed to go home, I would be more in trouble with my boyfriend, my abuser. So I stayed in that toxic cycle for a while. After that, I had several, like a few long-term boyfriends, weren't abusive at all. Then fast forward to I became an addictions counselor, and that would have been 20, I don't know what year it was, it doesn't matter. I met a guy who was training to be a correctional officer. So I figure, he's got to be a good guy, right? He's in corrections. They have to have integrity. They have to be all these kinds of things. I dated him for 8 months, 9. And he, in those 9 months, was extremely abusive. Verbally, emotionally, financially. I eventually moved in with him in Regina. He started working at the jail there. And then it became physical. It became physical one night when I found out that he was cheating on me. And he had locked himself in the bathroom, I remember. And after he had abused me, I called my best friend, who I will always remember that she took part in just doing some great things for me. The cops called me, or I called them, obviously. And we were in a condo, and the cops called me, and they're like, "Okay, what's his name? What does he look like?" And I told them what it looked. They're like, "Is he big?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "How big?" And I was like, "Well, I just found a ton of needles. He's obviously on something." And at the time, I didn't have a lot of experience with steroids. I was an addictions counselor, but back then, like, steroids weren't as big of a thing as they are now. And I knew, like, some of the side effects of steroids, anger, rage, all those things, but I wasn't as skilled or as knowledgeable as I am now. So the cops, 5 showed up, 5 cop cars. I'm like, that's excessive. I can deal with this. But, and keep in mind, when I called the police, I said, "Just so you know, he's a corrections officer." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So in my mind, I think they were suspecting that he probably had weapons. Most COs do, whether that be pepper spray, batons, guns, just for protection, because when you're in corrections, your level of being paranoid is through the roof. Your level of consciousness is very, very high about your safety and those sorts of things. I found that out when I became a CO. They surrounded the entire condo, so there was cops at the front door, at the back door, and all the exits. And on the phone, they said, "Can you come downstairs? Can you make it out of the condo safely? And can you come downstairs and sit at the bottom of the stair, at the lobby?" So I sat down there, and all 5 of them went in, knocked on the door. He didn't know I had called the police. So when the cops brought him down, his shirt was ripped, and I'll never forget the look that he gave me. To me, and you know what, I really do appreciate law enforcement, police. You had Darcy Bear, they do a really great job. But to me, what they did was not trauma informed. They walked him past me while I was sitting there shaking, because I was still scared of what he would do to me. And he was a lot bigger than me. Obviously, he was on steroids, and the look he gave me was like, I'll never forget that. Like, it was like, "I will kill you. You're done now." that kind of look. So we went through domestic violence court. That story was like really, it bothered me because I had even at that point I was mad. When you leave somebody that's your abuser, you the fuel inside of you to get back, to revenge, or like do some like, I kept saying to myself, I should have known better. I'm a counselor. What is wrong with me? All of these things. I had contacted the director of Regina Correctional and said, hey, look, you've got an abuser on your hands and he's in jail cells right now. What are you going to do? Fire him. I went on a tangent. I don't even think he got a suspension. So he was in cells for, I think, 2 nights. My dad made it from PA to Regina in like 2 hours. Like, it was insane how fast he was going because he was determined to get to me. When my dad got there, they took me out of the condo. I believe it's kind of a blur because I was in a state of shock, 100%. I didn't sustain physical injuries. I had some bruising, but it was more the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
And I fought back. So I am not one of those girls that takes it and lies down. I fought back. But he was just too strong. When my dad showed up, my dad took me out of the condo, and then a day later, he must have brought me back. I don't know where we went at all. And when I went back, the condo was empty. He had taken all of our possessions, the couch, the bed, left the needles. I found the needles in the cupboard in a big jar. And then he left a note, and I have never seen him again. We went through domestic violence court, and it was settled in court. He had to go through like anger management. I don't know what he had to go through because I cut ties, right? After that, I spiraled. So that was, I still remember the date. It was February 1st, 2011. I still remember because when traumatic incidents happen to us, we remember, and we remember sight, sound, smell, taste, hearing, all of the 5 senses, right? So what happened to me next is, well, actually, like, what was it? A month prior to the abuse, we had been fighting a lot. He alienated me from all of my family and friends. Every single one of them except for one best friend who had my back and was there. And she knows who she is. But a month prior to that, I ended up in the psych ward. So I have bipolar 2. And some people know that. Some people don't. I'm not ashamed of it. We all have mental health issues. Like, come on, it's 2026 here. We all got something. I just happened to get the bipolar 2. I don't know. Right? I just caught it. So what that means, in essence, DSM, you can look it up, but there's bipolar 1 and there's bipolar 2. But with me, it's kind of a little bit different because I sway between both sometimes. I am mainly extremely manic. I've been on a manic episode here for a couple of weeks. Otherwise, my depression episodes last a long time, and they're dark. So prior to my diagnosis, I was very, very depressed for about 6 months. As soon as I got my diagnosis on February 3rd, I think, 3rd, I came out of the depression. And that's a whole other story that I'll talk about, but we'll go back to what I was talking about with my ex. I ended up in the psych ward. I remember, and I ended up there because I was standing on the ledge of my 3rd floor balcony condo. Like, come on. I thought somebody was going to call that in for sure, but it was me. I called it in. I called for help. I reached out to I think it was a suicide hotline or something. Keep in mind, I was a counselor at the time. I reached out to the hotline. Cops came immediately and asked, have you been, what drugs are you on? Have you been drinking? What do you do for a living? Blah, 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 blah. I had a couple glasses of wine, but I was definitely not intoxicated by any means. And I wasn't on any drugs. Because back then, I didn't do any drugs. I think maybe every once in a while I'd smoke weed, but it wasn't very much. They transported me to the psych ward in Regina, so Regina General, and I worked on that psych ward. Like, I was a counselor that would go and see patients on that psych ward. So it was very ironic, me walking in there in a high manic state, and as soon as they brought me into emerge, I had a psychotic break. I was seeing like spiders on the wall. I was thinking that the walls were moving towards me, and I was like clawing at my fingernails were bleeding, clawing at the walls. So then they had to inject me. So whatever they gave me, I don't know what it was, because you lose time, a sense of time and reality when you're in the psych ward to begin with, because it's a very dark and scary place. And I slept and I cried the entire time. Back then I was smoking, so I went out for a smoke and covered myself in a blanket and shook a lot, had no makeup on. And I was involuntarily like kept in the psych ward. I forget what the actual terminal, like a mental health warrant or whatever it was back then, because it's different now. My parents had to come from PA and sign me out and sign an affidavit, not an affidavit, something saying, we will release Danielle under your watch after, I believe I was there 3 days, 3 or 4, long enough for me to recognize and understand that I can never be in that place again in my life, because I'm not saying, I hope to God I'm not, because that was terrifying. And then after that, I got my so I was diagnosed when I was 20, got my second diagnosis when I was like 22. Same, they're like, yeah, you're bipolar too. And I always fought that. I was like, no, I'm just a little crazy, a little bit out there. Like, no, I'm not. No, I fought it forever. I'm telling you, people with mental health concerns or issues fight it. They don't believe it. They don't want to believe it. You know, like my son has ADHD. He doesn't want to believe it, but holy, he has it, you know?
Yeah.
And I had it, like I caught it, you know? Didn't catch it, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
So for a while there I was on lithium, but that made me really sick. Lithium is a dangerous drug. Because I was having blackouts on it. I was not remembering. I was bartending at the time, and I remember driving home and I was like, did I make it here? Like, I didn't know where I was. It was, so for me, medication may work for some people. The only thing that works for me is diet, exercise, which I've had to do my entire life. Seeing a counselor and just keeping myself in check. I will always be manic, but sometimes it's the lesser of two evils, if you know what I mean?
Well, I think a person has to find what works for them. Not everyone's cut from the same, cookie cutter, basically. So people have to find what works for them. I have friends
Yeah.
that have ADHD just like myself, and they have, some medicine to help them out. And I choose more or less the holistic side of things as well, too. And when my exercise is in check, I am a lot better, more functional than I am without. So it does make a difference for sure, but you have to know that for yourself too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know. I've accepted it now. Some people know, some people don't. Well, everyone's gonna know now, but I I have really good coping skills, and I'm really good at self-care. So, and I have a really good support system. But during that time, we can talk about what happened after my ex and the abuse, and I
If you,
was
if you feel
yeah.
comfortable.
Go ahead. Yeah. I was in a really, really dark state. It was very dark. It was just a very dark time of mine. I didn't know what was a healthy meal at all, which is very bizarre because my dad is amazing. He is like my rock, and just picture the perfect dad. That's him. So, but at that time I was a counselor. I was going out. I was drinking a lot, of partying all the time, which is kind of weird when you're an addictions counselor. But I mean, lots of addictions counselors have addictions, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have an alcohol addiction. I don't think. I'm not sure, but I was definitely binge drinking a lot. I ended up meeting this guy at the bar. He worked as a bouncer. Ended up being with him for a while. 2 months. It was very, very short. Very short. Part of that story is that we would drive around town a lot. Just, I don't know, he liked going for drives and stopping at people's houses. And when you really like someone, you're pretty naive. You can be. Like, rose-colored glasses, I had those.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have qualities that I really liked. I was just in a state of, I don't know.
You
I'd been
were
through
wanting to be
trauma.
connected. You know,
Yeah.
something to be connected to, right?
And I
Yeah.
was in Regina. I didn't have a lot of my old supports there and stuff like that. So I got into the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
We were driving in Regina, and we stopped at the gas station. And I'm a snoop. Every woman's a snoop. Come on, like women grab phones or whatever and look through them. I popped the glove box, and a bunch of cocaine and a handgun fell out. And I was like, oh my. I'm like, I'd seen cocaine because I was a counselor. Of course, I seen it, but I'm not like out in public.
Yeah.
And a gun? What the hell is this guy doing with a gun? Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah. You're allowed to,
Okay.
share as much as you want. I
Yeah.
learned that with
So then,
Darren last time.
yeah. Oh, he did swear. Okay. So
Yeah.
the my boyfriend jumped out of his vehicle. He was out of his vehicle when I found this, and then I look in the rearview mirror, and at this point I'm kind of scared, but I'm still like, I like him. Women will do stupid stuff. They will. And he popped the trunk and pulled out a shotgun. And I'm sitting at the gas station in Regina. I'm like, what is happening? And I'm looking around. I'm like, are we in danger? What's happening? Then he just pulled it out. And I don't know what he did with it because the trunk was up like this. I couldn't really see what he was doing. And then he put it back in and he threw a blanket over it. I was like, okay, well, that was weird. But I definitely can't run from this situation. He has guns. I have to play it cool. I have to play like I didn't. I'm really good at like playing like I didn't see anything happen, and I can just keep it cool. Then we were heading to a house party, so we showed up in this neighborhood in Regina that was super wealthy, like big houses, like bigger than just really nice houses, and I'm like, what? Keep in mind, we're like, what were we, 22, 23? I'm like, whose house is this? Is this your friend's parents' house? He's like, no, it's his house. I'm like, what does he do? And he's like, oh yeah, and he does like a bunch of things. So I was like, well, what does he do? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, well, I'm an addictions counselor. I make like $25 an hour. Like, I couldn't afford this.
Yeah.
We go inside, and it's like a party. There's lots of people. There's guys, but there's girls. Lots of girls. The girls are dressed like strippers, and I'm like, holy, I am not dressed for this. I don't know what I was wearing. Doesn't matter. The girls were dressed very provocatively and just looked, I don't know, dressed up. And him and all of his friends were there, and I knew them a bit. And there was like mountains of cocaine on the pool table and everywhere else. But I am very observant, but I also knew how to keep myself safe in that instant because I seen women walking into different rooms of the house, like bedrooms, and I'm like, why would they do that? That's weird. We don't do that at a house party. Like, just take off, like in and out, like every hour, because I was there for hours, in and out, in and out. That one goes in, that one goes out, that one goes in, that one goes out. I sat in the main common area with loser face. And I was like, okay, so that happened. And I'm like, whatever. And then one night, my roommate, who was like my best friend at the time, said to me, like, Dani, like, I have to move out because you are going down a very dangerous path. And I'm like, why? And she's like, the guy you're with. She's like, you don't know what he's doing? And I was like, well, I think I do. you know? So the one night I went out with him, and he had said to me, he's like, Dani, I'm not taking you home. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I need to go home. And he's like, I'm taking her home. And it was one of the other girls that we hung out with lots. And I was like, okay. I ended it right there. But he started stalking me. And he was an affiliate of a motorcycle gang. And I got scared. Really, like, pretty scared. I mean, I didn't know, but I wanted to cover my bases. So I called my ex, who's in a motorcycle gang, and he dealt with the situation, and I never have seen him again. He actually overdosed and died. But that girl that he took home, I was in Regina probably like a year ago for work because I travel a lot. And I checked into my hotel and I went to the front desk and I was like just checking in, whatever. I see these two women clearly under the influence of what I assumed is meth. For sure it was meth. Sitting in the common way of the hotel, and they're like crying, freaking out, looking for their purse, needing a cell phone. And I go out there and I look at her, and I look at her, she looks up at me and she's like, Dani? And I'm like, oh. And I said her name and she started bawling. It was that girl that ended up with him, and they actually ended up having kids. And she was on the floor crying, saying, I need a cell phone. And the hotel was yelling at her, not letting her in. And I work with missing and murdered. I'm an advocate, right? So I was like, what do you need? What do you need? Do you need a ride? And she's like, I left my cell phone in the cab. And I was like, what cab? What's the company? So I called the cab, and she started crying and moved towards me and gave me a hug. And I was like, I'll hug you. Hopefully you don't have fentanyl on you, but whatever. So that was a really heartwarming experience for me. It's like it came full circle, you know? Mm-hmm. It really did. So
the moments like that happen in our life with full circles. It can shake us to the core, most definitely. Mm-hmm. How do you feel it? How did you feel at that moment when you realized things came full circle?
And she looked at me like I was a miracle, that I made it out of that life alive. She was like, she said, Dani, like, no, it can't be. You know, Dani, no, you. And, because I was dressed in like a suit jacket and suit pants and high heels. I think I had a speaking engagement or something in Regina. I don't know what it was. And it just came full circle. And you know what? The other way it came full circle is like, this is shock. Like, things are just ironic in life. They're just like, you don't know why they happen, but they do. I was at a human trafficking conference. Was I presenting at that conference? No, I don't think I did. It was in PA. It was a human trafficking conference like several years ago. Or was it in PA? I don't know. I've been to too many conferences. There was a bunch of RCMP sitting around a table, and I was at the table or the table beside. I can't remember because, again, trauma, you in shock. They were with human trafficking and human trafficking charges. They're very, very hard to lay in Saskatchewan. They don't have very many of them. Last time I talked to the vice unit in Regina, there wasn't very many. There isn't, and it's kind of shocking because it happens in our backyard, right? They had mentioned this. They're like, well, we did have a human trafficking charge, and it was like this, whatever charge it was, and they said the name, and it was my ex. And I was sitting at that table beside, and I got up, and I'm really prone to panic attacks. Like, me and panic attacks are like this. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But if anyone's ever had them, they're really awful. And I went to the bathroom and had a panic attack, and I was like, I knew all along that he was trafficking women, but I didn't want to believe it. Yeah. I didn't want to say to myself, like, you're in a dangerous spot. Get out. And so that kind of chapter kind of ended for me, but it was really in that moment when I heard his name, I was like, yeah, I wasn't crazy. Something was going on, right? And and then he ended up overdosing, and he's gone. And I didn't keep track of him, but I have friends and family in pretty much every jail, and I knew he was incarcerated multiple times. So, yeah, definitely kept my distance from. Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been a little bit of relief, but still, it must have shook you to your core. Just realizing, life could have taken just maybe one more turn to the, to the left, to the right, whatever it is, and similar circumstances could have been maybe in your own journey as well, too, as that young
Mhm.
girl that you ran into. It's a very scary world when we start having conversations about those kind of things. I don't think as much of the public realize how often or that those kind of things take place. But then again, it's really great that there is extra services, extra people that can try and help out with those situations. Law enforcement. I hope that there is a never-ending amount of resources to kind of help fuel that what they have to fuel in
Mhm.
order to help out those situations. Thank you very much for sharing that, Danny. I know that,
Yeah.
we chatted a little bit beforehand with this podcast and that, that information, it's not easy to share. And it's not going to be
Mhm.
easy for folks to hear on the other side, whoever listens to this
Yeah.
podcast. But, I think it's going to give people awareness as well that it can happen to anybody, like we chatted about before we started recording, that
Mhm.
it can happen to really anyone who maybe hangs out with a certain type of person or just anybody that comes into their life that can kind of lead them into that life.
Yeah,
Um,
and traffickers don't always look like they do in the movies, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. Can I ask you what is a piece of advice for somebody to maybe keep an eye out for
Mhm.
something like that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you need to have a really strong support system, like I did, and keep watch for who they hang out with.
Hmm.
You know that quote where people say you are the you're a
The five
culmination of the
friends.
five people. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I should have taken a look more closely at his friends. He
yeah.
was wearing a motorcycle club shirt when I met him. All like there was so many red flags. The house that was worth God, I don't even know. It was insane. Nobody at 23 has a house like that. I should have all of these things should have clued in, but I can tell your audience or women out there, these are the red flags. They'll always find different ones.
Hmm.
Or they won't look. Or they won't want to see the red flags, right? Like I didn't want to see them and
Yeah, like you
so
mentioned, you're very close into the situation, and even though you thought something might be here and there, you kind of you pretend like it wasn't for from time to time, right? You wanted to be connected to somebody, and when somebody wants to be connected to somebody, sometimes we toss on blinders on things.
I was really isolated. I lost all my friends and stuff. And I guess that's one piece of advice I can give is that there is no greater support out there than your best friends, your close girlfriends. Having
Yeah,
close girlfriends, I have the most, I'm telling you, like, not a word of a lie, I have the most amazing, loyal friends in the entire world. I could call somebody right now, any one of them, and be like, I need help. They'd be here in like a second, as I would be for them. So,
well, that's important for sure, and everyone deserves good friends like that. I definitely
yeah.
couldn't agree more. It's a sad fact when an abuser actually starts separating a person from their closest circle, and there's a part of that of why they're doing that, of course, to want to isolate them and to get them by themselves. And I think that's a very good sign for somebody to kind of keep an eye out is when you start feeling isolated. When beforehand maybe you had such a strong group of people that were always close to you. So I think that's a very good something to keep in mind of for sure. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that, Danny. Truly, I do appreciate that.
Mhm.
Now, we chatted a little bit about your health situation as of recent.
Mhm.
Do you want to maybe possibly lead on to that news that you got fairly recently?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I I've always been like I don't want to say like a gym freak, but like other people would say that I am.
Hmm.
Not as of late because I just got off a 3-day fast, so I'm kind of trying to recoup that.
Yeah.
But I've loved the gym for years. It's been my safe place. My when I was in corrections, it was like you know, you got to build a strong body because you never know when you're going to be involved with something or have to run somewheres. And with my job, I always had to run. And eating healthy for me is like a non-issue. Like I've always eaten 80-20. My friends know that I'm a great cook. My family has 2 published cookbooks, which is pretty cool. I love to cook healthy, and that's just me. But I found a lump. I think I found it in December, to be honest, like around Christmas time, but I'm not sure. I should have written down the date. Then I called my doctor, and she's one of my best friends, and I was like, hey, like, I don't know. And she's like, get it checked out. I'm like, nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And she's like, no, you need a mammogram. And I'm like, I'm like 37. So I went for the and I've been told like different things about mammograms, and some nurses and doctors will hate me for this, but I'm going to say it anyways because I'm being authentic. Like I thought that they could cause cancer or whatever. Went and did the mammogram, and sure enough, it came back as a BI-RADS 4C rating, which means a 50 to 90% probability of cancer, approximately. Okay. I'd have to look it up again, but my sister is an RN. When she read that, she looked at me, and I was like, oh. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, it's cancer. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm extremely intuitive. I know my body. It's cancer. Yeah. Then get the biopsy, which I was really hesitant to get as well because I've heard that those can seed spread or cause cancer. And I don't know. I'm no doctor. But I'm also scared of needles. But I went for the biopsy. My husband came, held my hand, because he knows I'm a baby when it comes to needles. And then I think within 4 days, my doctor, who's a good friend of mine, said, we have been friends since we were 3. And I hate to tell you this, but you've been diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, stage 1. So the lump was 1.6 centimeters, had an MRI, they found another lump. So what do we do? You know what I mean? Like, what are the next steps? And I'm also a really holistic, natural person. I use medicines all the time. I use nature's medicines. I work with elders and healers all the time. That's part of my daily routine. And so I ran to my naturopath. I was like, help. And we had a conversation there. And I started on a regimen of a bunch of different supplements and stuff like that. And I am on ivermectin and mebendazole. So there's some studies with that. And I feel fantastic. I've lost I don't even know anymore because I don't have a scale at home because I don't believe in scales. There's something about it. I'm just like icky. And I can't find the scale at the gym. And I'm like, where did they put it? I'm like, where did it go? I knew it was here. But I did weigh myself and I lost about 15 pounds in, I think, a matter of 2.5 weeks or something like that. Can't be quite sure, but because I've done a 3-day fast and I've changed my diet is just more strict than it was, no sugar other than honey, agave, and maple syrup. And then my next steps, I guess, are I was waiting for surgery and I was like, God, we got to get in there. Let's cut this rotten thing out. Let's get rid of this. It's not meant for me. And my family and friends knew, my husband, and we finally told our kids. That was very hard for me because for anyone that knows me, my kids are everything, 100%. And so then I was waiting for the surgery date and I got called yesterday. So March 18th, I will be getting surgery. And then after that, it's radiation and then the option for chemo. But, and I'm not scared. I'm really, really healthy. I don't get scared easily. As I said, I worked in corrections and I can't remember a time I was scared there. It has to also do with bipolar. So bipolar people thrive in chaos. Chaos is our baseline. So if there's chaotic situations, you send me in because I thrive and I know exactly what to do and where to be and who to call and how to respond. But if my life is boring or just whatever, I'm likely to go into depression.
Hmm.
Like, that's just how it is. So then when I guess my cancer diagnosis, now that I'm recognizing this is kind of a bit of chaos in my life. That's maybe why I'm thriving right now. I don't know. Never thought of it that way. Um, so next up, March 18th, I get surgery and we chop it out and then radiation. And then right now I'm refusing chemo. And that is completely my choice.
Yeah.
I met with a healer yesterday actually from Costa Rica and she invited me to go stay there for a couple weeks. Me and my husband and my kids. So I might look at that option. But I will get it removed because, I mean, you got to cut it out. I can't just leave it.
Yep.
And so that's the journey that I am starting on.
That's quite the hill to climb next. But I definitely appreciate your attitude and your energy towards it. That you're going to take it on head on first, and you're going to do what you hear how to do to take care of it. I'm also, like I said, a little bit of a holistic person myself too. I don't take any pharmacy medications. I normally try and find my, more natural path to things. I'm not saying that I don't believe in, pharmacy stuff. I'm just saying that's what I try and prefer on my own life. I know other folks are in the same boat. Can you please tell me a little bit more about the Costa Rica situation? That sounds very
Oh,
intriguing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So this girl I used to work with when I was in Moose Jaw, I was a school team. My title was school team counselor. So I
Hmm.
went to different high schools and met with students and counseled them. I loved it. She was there. I don't know what her position was, but she ended up moving to Costa Rica. Like I think she said like a decade ago, so 10 years ago, maybe more, and became this like met her like husband had kids and like they live off the grid. Like I'm
Mm.
talking composting, toilet. They live off the land. The kids help build their new house in the Costa Rican jungle, and it's called immersion therapy, I think. And they do a blend of natural medicines, like of the plants, and of this medicine that's from Colombia that's equivalent to ayahuasca.
Hmm.
But it's not ayahuasca, but the same benefits and stuff like that. So, and you heal there. Her, when she was explaining it to me, because I said, okay, well, a lot of what you're talking about is how I feel and think about the world as well. She said that my cancer and everyone's like this was her opinion, so people might judge her opinion, especially the medical professionals, but it's a biological response to the environment that you're in. The traumas that have happened in your life are manifesting themselves in a disease. And she's like, do you have a lot of trauma? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's like, PTSD. I was like, I don't know, never been diagnosed. I think I'm fine in that avenue. And I said, but I was a correctional officer for a while. And she's like, you probably have some trauma that you don't even recognize. And I'm like, well, I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm still here. But
Yeah.
we all have trauma. I mean, if you're a CO, I used to train the COs and say, you're not coming out of this unscathed, just so you know.
Mm.
And so she was talking to me about this, and I'm really interested in it. I just don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Well, that's a big decision. You did mention to me off camera that you're actually going to be off work for a while. So at least you will have that free schedule to be able to do that, with your
Hmm.
family, hopefully. Can I ask
Yeah.
what's one of the things that's might be holding you back from taking that trip? Just out of curiosity.
Nothing, honestly. Like,
Okay.
other than like, let's figure out how much it costs for all four of us to go down there for 2 weeks, right?
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like that would be the one thing because like we just renovated an entire house. Pump the brakes, Danielle. Like you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like slow down, one
Yeah.
thing at a time. But I run at a speed that's like too fast. I need to like take a break, like slow down,
Yep.
take a break, calm down. You
Yeah.
know.
I can relate with that, just so for whoever's listening, if anybody knows me on a personal level, you know that I run 1,000 miles a minute. And I think it's just the way I live my life too. And as, to relate with you when things are born, believe it or not, that's when, my dark moments, my depression, all those kind of things that I don't necessarily like to sit in too often. That's when they kind of creep up on me. So I can definitely relate with where you're coming from on loving to being busy. And quite frankly, there's so much of life to live. I don't think we have enough years, enough time on this planet to live as much life as there is to live. So why kind of
100%.
just, yeah, just why sit and not take advantage as much of the life that we could possibly get to experience with each and every single, situation, new scary risk, new scary venture, whatever it is. Like, quite frankly, this podcast is something that has scared the heck out of me right from the get-go. But, over the last few conversations I've had with folks like yourself, Darren, Darcy, and the folks beforehand, I'm really appreciating these conversations because I believe people learn from stories. And you shared very emotional, very real, very raw stories with us. And,
Yeah.
whether it's 5 people, whether it's 1,000 people, like I said in Darren's last podcast, people can learn from this. People can take stuff from this for themselves. And if they can't, and if they don't want to, that's fine. That's their option. That's their opinion. And one of the beautiful things about this planet is that everyone can have their own opinion on, what works
Yes.
for them. But I
Mhm.
do want to appreciate you just having the willingness to share some of those stories that you shared with myself and share with whoever's going to be listening. Um,
Mhm.
I know when
Absolutely.
you were messaging me that it was going to be a tougher conversation to sit in on. Not that I'm not against it and not used to it from time to time, but I knew that it was heavy topics after you were
Yeah.
messaging me, and it truly was. I know myself personally. After I'm going to have to do some self care myself
Mhm.
because being a father of young kids, just being a person who appreciates people and just in general, I'm a person that doesn't want to see people hurt. Um,
I know. Yeah.
and it's not an easy world lots of times when you hear different stories of people going through different situations like you shared with
Mhm.
us. But once again, to go full circle, it is nice that you have folks like yourself doing different services, different programs that can help families who are in need, like I mentioned a couple times already. So thank you for that
Yeah.
kind of line of work for sure that you do. Um, there's a couple questions I wanted to ask you before we kind of trail off here.
For sure.
Um, let's see here. You mentioned you are in the process or interested in starting your own book, and I would love
Mhm.
to know a little bit more about that. Is your book going to tell a little bit more details of some of the stories that you shared with me and whoever is going to
Mhm.
listen after? So with the
Yeah.
traffic in the career, the PTSD, a little bit, the trauma, and of course,
Yeah.
your next stage of life with your health that you have to, you know, walk alone with the journey with your husband and your family for sure. Can please tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about that? Yeah.
Well, it's called like I think it's going to be called. I might change the title.
Yeah.
It's called Let's Go to War because there's been different what I call wars that I've went through in my life, and this is like the biggest one. Like this is like the World War I. Like this is here we go. It's time to buckle up and get ready. Like you've
Yeah.
always been resilient, but you gotta hit it harder. And the book is gonna start from the my youngest trauma, which I'm not gonna discuss on here. My youngest trauma until through my breast cancer journey. And then a lot of what I've dealt with in corrections, a lot of stories there. There'll be some stories. I'll probably have some like some excerpts from some of my friends because every single one of my friends in PA, at least, well, mainly in PA, are in corrections, and they're
Hmm.
all have been in there for years and have dealt with way more horrific stuff than I have in corrections, and so there might be some of that in there if I get permission, which I probably will from them. And it's just to highlight that all of us have our own individual stories. We have no right to judge. I've never really been a judgmental person. I'm a very free spirit. I've always been that way. And so for me, it's important to well, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write a book when I was 21.
Hmm.
I'm really good at writing. I love it. I can write an essay, a 40-page essay in like a couple hours. Like, so I'm very looking forward to it, and I'm very excited. There's going to be some, I'm going to share some stories about my children. My children have been through, they've had a really good life, to be honest. But they have had their struggles with different things in life. So it's going to be about motherhood, my journey there, my journey with being a wife to my husband, who is also a correctional officer. And he's a correctional officer at the jail. I think he's been there for 10 years, something like that. So just the role of that, and being, because we worked at the correctional together on opposite shifts, so managing that, both of us coming home and just having a very traumatic day, having a baby to deal with while I'm in the shower decontaminating from pepper spray, stuff like that. So it's just going to be the whole journey.
Yeah.
The whole, from start to finish, my journey and my thoughts, and what moves me, and what, I don't know, even the fact that I grow and raise butterflies in my backyard, which is, everyone makes fun of me, but it is really cool.
It sounds pretty cool, actually.
It's amazing. I have a butterfly cage, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, and I'm like, why? And then they come see it, and they're like, wow, I really like it.
Well, that would be therapeutic for sure. If I can be honest, that's the first that I'm ever hearing somebody growing butterflies in their backyard, but I think that's super cool, actually.
My kids love it.
You know, you did mention something about somebody mentioning that, you know, maybe cancer is something of stored stress, stored traumas.
100%.
If I can be honest, with my book, you know, that I wrote about a year and a half ago, it took me 2 years or whatever it was. That was some of the most healing journeys I've ever walked, my own self. And I'm somebody who, as a profession, goes and speaks about some of the past traumas and my past mistakes. Mm-hmm. But when you actually take those thoughts, those stories, those traumas that you've lived with and carried inside your soul and your body for years and years and years, and you put it down on a piece of paper, a lot of emotions can come out. But at the same time, a lot of, you know, stress can be melted away by doing so. And I believe it will. There's no doubt in my mind. The more you write, you know, you might have to walk through a few journeys that might be tough, a few days here and there, of course, with just some of the stories you shared with us. You know, it'd be understandable that you're going to have to walk through some journeys that might be tough, but I personally think it's one of the most healing things a person can do when they've walked some difficult journeys. And if I can have a recommendation, you know, just to have that conversation, you know, where stresses and traumas are stored in our bodies, I think that would be a absolutely fantastic way to live some therapy through your book. Yeah. And it's going to be something that you can carry with you for, you know, as time goes on. Mm-hmm. Somebody who cares about you, somebody who loves you, somebody who's friends with you, everyone can read along your journey with you and, you know, get to be with you along that journey. And that's going to be therapeutic in itself too. So,
you know, I want my kids to look back at this journey with me as their mom, because I'm not going anywhere. So I'm not even thinking about death, because that's not going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. Knock on wood, but I want my kids to look back at this and have a piece of evidence of the history and the journey that their mom went through with them, and know that I'm their biggest fan and I've always been there for them, but I want them to know me completely. Yeah. I'm very honest with and open with my kids. My son absolutely adores me, so does my daughter, but my son is my firstborn. Yeah. He's a big kid and he loves me to death, and he's like my little bestie. I love him so much. And he is a very, very strong-willed man. He's a type A. He'll argue with the best of them. Really, he should be a lawyer, I think. But I told him I was writing a book. And so I want him to look at that book and have it for when he's older and be like, my mom raised us, but she went through this, and you can do hard things and you can overcome them. Yeah. You can have these traumas and be a great person or have a great career or those types of things. Like there's a quote I used to teach correctional officers when I was teaching, was something on empathy or whatever. Those who walk through the fire or who have been through the fire carry buckets of water for those still consumed by the flames. So I don't know if you've heard that before, but it's beautiful.
I think I have, and I do love that kind of analogy too, and I can relate with that
Yeah,
quite a bit. I think anyone who's hurt in the past wants others to not hurt,
100%.
one way or
And
the other.
yeah, and those that have had the biggest traumas in their lives
Yeah,
have the most are the most empathetic and are the greatest storytellers and are the most loyal. Like I tell ya, ask any one of my friends and say, is Danny a loyal person? Well, go figure. She would do whatever. Give the shirt off her back for her best friends, and I would. And they would for me. That's why I have those friends.
yeah,
I choose my friends wisely because they're the people that will come running if I do something bad or good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very important as we go through the rest of our lives to have, it doesn't matter if we have 100 friends or 1,000 friends, but having those close group of friends that you can always count on is more important than, numbers at the end of the day.
Yes,
And I'm thankful to be able to say I have a good amount of friends that I can call at any given moment. And I think that's important for anybody, to go through any situation, to be able to call somebody right away and, your back is looked after. So
yeah.
that's amazing that you have that. I'm happy to hear that for you.
You too, Cody. Like along our journeys and stuff, you meet those people and you're like, if I could never be without you. Like I
Yeah.
just called my best friend today. Well, we talk every day, but I called her and when she's speaking, I'm just like, I don't know what I would do without you. Not only that, I don't know what my kids would do without you, my husband, like all of us.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very great way to kind of start wrapping things up. I think for folks who, can relate with your message, can
Yeah.
take from your message, I think there's a lot to unpack there. It might not be super easy to hear some of those stories, but some of the tougher conversations that we have to have in our lives aren't always the easiest. But,
For sure.
we still have to have them, one way or the
Yeah.
other.
And you know what? They're worth sharing.
Yeah.
I have never been, I'm blessed because I'm not one of those people that have really ever cared what other people have thought about me. That is a skill that I have learned over time and developed and honed in on for sure. But we have to speak our truth.
Yeah.
We have to. Because you know what? Secrets keep us sick.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with you on that. I do like the
Yeah.
way you put that. Well, Danny, thank you very much for being so transparent, so real, so just sharing what you had to share. It
Yeah.
was, like I said, very powerful stories that you had to share.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you went through a lot of that, those stories that you shared with us. I'm glad that you're here and with the optimistic side, and I'm glad you're growing butterflies in your backyard this summer, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, when a
I
person has
have
gone,
birds too, and my
yeah,
son's
birds
got a
too.
gecko. I
That's
have
cool.
birds in my sunroom. I'm such a hippie. I have birds in my sunroom, and my son has a gecko, and we're getting another one, and I'm obsessed with it. Yeah.
That's cool. Please keep embracing all that nature. That's a beautiful thing for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I definitely look forward to reading your book when it is finished, and I
I'm gonna
definitely,
read yours.
for sure, we can definitely exchange books for
Yeah,
sure. And if you ever have questions about writing a book, please let me know.
probably will.
Yeah, I'm an open book on that aspect of my life as well too. So,
Great.
but once again, thank you very much, Danny. I think it was a great conversation that we had today, and thank you for sharing with everybody. And for all those who are going to be listening to this podcast, thank you very much for giving us two of the most precious resources another human being could give to another human being. That's your time and that's your energy. So thank you very much. My name is Cody Demery. And of course, we had the chance to chat with Dani Carrier today. So thank you, everybody.